the Tigers are going to host the top 2 quarterbacks in the country for visits this fall. We've already told you guys Bryce Underwood is going to come for a visit this fall. He's the number 1 overall prospect in the country on the On3 industry ranking. But just on Thursday, LSU is going to get George MacIntyre on campus for the Arkansas game. He told that to Chad Simmons when they caught up going into his game last week. He faced off against Andre Evans, an LSU defensive back commit. And he's a guy that is kind of, there was some buzz that maybe he was going to make a decision this summer, but has now let his recruitment go into the fall.
Yeah, whenever I talked to George over the summer, I guess this was towards the end of July, he had said that he was trying to pick a game. He thought it would be Arkansas, and then Chad went out and saw him in person a month later, and it looks like he's got it locked in now. So Joe Sloan's done really well here, identifying very early before rankings even came out. These are the 2 guys I like, and they end up being the number 1 and 2 quarterbacks in America, and Bryce Underwood and George MacIntyre. With MacIntyre, you've got competition that's in the SEC. He's a Nashville kid, he's a Vandy legacy, and he's in Nashville. I don't think he ends up at Vanderbilt. Tennessee is a school that's recruiting him very hard. Alabama is a school that's recruiting him very hard, and then LSU. So I think you look at those trio of teams as 3 that you're kind of really keeping an eye on to see how they jockey for position. But the good news is that's not the only high-level, prospect quarterback they're in on. Underwood is the other. And EJ Holland from our Michigan site did a piece, and you can find that on 3, where he kind of talked about where things stand with Bryce Underwood, and he's there, kind of close to where Bryce is and able to see him go through high school. And EJ said at this point, it's very clear this is an LSU-Michigan battle. And EJ said, look, the thing working against Michigan is that Bryce sort of early on had an eye on the SEC, and now there's only one team that he's really serious about in the SEC. It's LSU. Is there a path for LSU to get one of these guys? Yes. I think LSU fans are just wondering, is this finally the year that domino drops in LSU's direction? Because we've talked about this on the pod before. We can go back however long you want to, but Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, all of these guys visited LSU in high school, and they never really got close enough to where they were like one of the top 2 teams, or, call it a coin flip, or battling for a commitment. It was always just visits. And what Sloan has done a good job of is, yes, he got him in with some national guys last year in year 1, but it was coming in late on recruiting a lot of guys to start with. And we saw the Jaden Rashadas and Dante Moores, they all visited, but in the end, they ended up elsewhere. Is this the year that changes? And I don't know the answer to that, but the odds are good, I think, right now. They're not terrible. They're not great. They're good that they could end up with the number 1 or 2 quarterback in the country, because they are firmly in the top 3 for MacIntyre and top 2 for Underwood.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 2 dominoes at the top there are going to be really interesting to see what happens. Michigan is going to do everything that they can to keep Bryce Underwood. LSU has hosted Bryce Underwood as much as you could possibly want. The final box, I guess, to check is having him for a game, which he's going to do this fall at some point. They'll come down with his family and do that. But, it is one of those things that when you can get a game changer like Bryce Underwood, and I think George MacIntyre is going to be a very good quarterback at the next level too, but specifically Bryce Underwood, I mean, you're talking about the Gatorade Player of the Year back-to-back, Gatorade Player of the Year. I think he was the Max Preps Player of the Year. I mean, he has a resume that is pretty unreal for a guy as going into his junior season now, and the number 1 overall, the type of resume a number 1 overall player should have. So we'll see. Joe Slow's been swinging at those 2 guys, and I think the good thing for LSU is both of those guys, I think, will be committed by the beginning of January. Bryce Underwood has his date circled in January right now. There was some buzz he was going to move it up, but August 19th is come and gone, and he remains uncommitted, which isn't surprising to me. He set that date for a reason, and he's going to take some game visits, and both of them are. So good news to end the pod. LSU's going to have the number 2 and number 1 quarterbacks in the country on campus.
Here's one thing, and to close out, I'll say just to keep an eye on. I do think on-field results matter often, and in recruitments like this, I think they do. Michigan's going to have a very good team this year. They could compete for the playoffs. If LSU can match that, if LSU can have that type of year, Underwood, there's another check in LSU's box. It's not like there's a pressure of, hey, look, Michigan just went 12-0 and they finally got over that hump and they won a playoff game or whatever it might be. You want to be able to have that on as your bargaining chip for LSU. So you play well, a guy like Underwood really notices that. And by the same token, a guy like MacIntyre, given that Bama was his other top team, Tennessee, a team that got red hot under Heupel a year ago. These are a team in Tennessee, a team that's trending up, Bama, a team that's been there. This sort of ebb and flow of where LSU's been, and we've seen it now from a national championship to 500 seasons to now winning the West in Kelly, year one with Kelly. They need stability. And when you get that stability, if you can reach it, and let's say they get another 10-win season this year, they get into a New Year's Six Bowl, they knock on the door of the playoffs, that's the kind of things that grabs the attention of these kids, because then the Underwoods, the MacIntyres, for as long as you've been recruiting him, your team wins every year. And it's not one of those things where they say, man, I've got to buy into a program, but y'all were 500 a couple of years in a row. Like, where are y'all really headed? If Kelly and them can win in year two, can get to 10 wins, and I've said the floor needs to be a New Year's Six game, which would mean improvement upon a year ago, but it's not saying they have to win a national championship. It's not saying they have to make the playoffs. Not even saying they need to win the SEC. I don't even think they need to win the West. Get to a New Year's Six Bowl. You've got the attention of recruits as now a program that in 2 years under a head coach has gotten double-digit wins each year, has finished in the top 10, has a top 10 recruiting class, and that's right where you want to be if you want to compete with these big guys.
Yeah, no doubt. So football season's here for LSU. That means that their chance is going to come quick to prove themselves against Florida State, and obviously going to do it without Mason Smith too. So that's for another pod with you and Maddie B. But look, LSU, I think they're doing the right things in recruiting, especially this 2025 class right now, to have one of the best classes in the country. And I'll be seeing a lot of the top targets this fall. So it's going to be a fun season, and I'm glad high school football is back, and soon enough college football will be as well. So hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. We've seen a bunch of people subscribe as of late with football season coming. So be sure to do that. And also follow us wherever you catch your podcasts. If you don't, check us out on YouTube, whether it be Spotify, Apple, whatever. Check us out there. And also, for just $1 for your first month, you can join the BengalTiger.com. Get locked in with all the recruiting news and scoop over the course of this season. It's going to be a fun one. Appreciate all you guys that always listen to the pod. For Shay Dixon, I'm Billy Embody. We'll catch you next time on another edition of the Bengal Tiger Recruiting Podcast.